our first candidate is Mike Collier. He is running for the second time for lieutenant governor against Ken Paxton, not Ken Paxton, sorry about that, Dan Patrick. He is the founder of a Texas oil company, a CFO for Exxon, a former auditor for PwC. As I mentioned, he ran before, and I thought I had it around, Mike. I actually have a T-shirt that says "Teach Dan a Lesson" from your last campaign. So anyway, go ahead and get started when you're ready.
Well, thank you, Sandra, and hello, everyone. It's nice to see you. I wish we could be together. We're smart in Zooming because of COVID, and as a candidate, we've learned some new skills. So as much as I would rather be there with you in person, it's actually possible to be in 2 or 3 places at once. And so that's I guess the benefit of it. But I'm very happy to say a few words. You know, this is an awfully important race. From my perspective, with Republicans having gerrymandered the state, I think that they have 10 years of not being accountable to us. And there's not anything we can do about it, except that we can, fight for all the down ballot candidates and fight like with all we've got. But we must elect a Democrat governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, comptroller on down the line. I think that's really the only way, for example, to be in a position to fight for public schools. I mean, I'm very concerned about what Republicans will do with that, which is my passion, which is education. If we don't get education right, we're not going to get anything right. I think we have a moral obligation to all of our young people, and not just to the sons and daughters of the well-to-do. We have schools that are doing fabulous, but we have schools that need our help, and the state is not there for those schools, and that's not right. And if we don't have a lieutenant governor who's a Democrat, then I perish the thought of what they'll do to public education. So we have to win this race. And as I travel the state and you talk to folks about, what's on their minds and ask the question, are we better off as a state 4 years than we were 4 years ago? You won't find anybody who says yes. I mean, it's terrible what's happening around us. I'm very concerned about funding for public education. I'm very concerned about how property taxes keep going up, which means we can't come up with the money for public education as we need. We should have expanded Medicaid a long time ago. There are people that are hurting, and there's no reason not to. We need criminal justice reform. We've got a lot of young men and women that are sitting in prisons, many of these profit prisons, which is not good. It's not a violent crime, first-time offense. Let's help them. Let's think in terms of restorative justice and get them working again. I think along those lines, I think it's time to legalize marijuana. We have to fix the damn grid. We got water infrastructure issues. We have transportation issues. And in Dan Patrick, you have somebody that won't solve any of those problems. He's all about culture warfare, and it's tearing us apart and politicizing absolutely everything that he can get his hands on, now including what our teachers teach in schools. So it's terrible where they're taking us, and that's why this election is so important. I almost beat Dan Patrick last time. That's why I'm in this again. I got within 4.8 points, and Beto was at the top of the ticket that year, so we all did well. But in rural Texas, where they have a lot of Republican-dominated counties, I was the top vote getter. I got all the more votes than even Beto. It's a reflection of how people feel about Dan Patrick, and that's why I decided to stay in this fight. I'm delighted that Beto's running for governor, by the way. I'm part of the crowd that kept calling him and bugging him to do so, and I'm so pleased that he did. And then the last thing I want to say is, yes, we have a lot of problems that we have to solve in the state, like fixing the damn grid, like education, like property taxes, and all the things that I mentioned. But it's a very, very different proposition in 2022 than it was in 2018, because now our rights are under attack in a way that they never have been. Our right to vote, a woman's right to choose and be in control of her own destiny and her own health care in her body, and our right to free speech and what's taught in schools. I mean, this is a very, very, very important and perilous time in our democracy, and we've got to make sure the next lieutenant governor is a Democrat. Now, I'm working hard because I'd like to be that Democrat. You all will decide. I'm working hard to earn your trust. But the important thing is the next lieutenant governor must be a Democrat, and that's the fight that we're in. And I'm passionate about seeing that through. So I may not have used up all of my 5. I'm very happy to turn the balance of my time over to question and answer, and I'll just keep going till I see that red sign, and then I'll stop. How's that?
Okay. Who would like? Does anybody out there? Looks like Gina. You want to ask a question? No, you were just waving at me in the camera. Well, if you'd like to ask a question, you can either raise your hand or go off mute. I will start. And we are very sensitive here in Flower Mound about the education. We're concerned about the masking and the lack of masking and the inability of the unwillingness of the ISD to protect our children and our teachers adequately, we feel. And also we're getting ready to go through a school board election. It's so scary because they throw CRT around and try to use it to define us. And I wanted to get your reaction to that. How, well, you're not really in education, but still there is an impact from your office on that, right?
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. Well, in the first instance, I favor local control. And I say that consistently everywhere I go, because what's good in Flower Mound and right for the community in Flower Mound may not be right in another part of the state. And I think we elect leaders locally because we have access to them. We can talk to them. They're accountable to us. And so I favor local control in the first instance. But there's a part for the lieutenant governor to play. And there's elements to it. First of all, the lieutenant governor ought to make sure that schools are properly funded. And in the context of COVID, that we have the right PPE and all the protective stuff, take care of our teachers, make sure that's handled properly. Lieutenant governor has a role in making sure that people have good information. The number one critique, and critique is too soft a word, the number one criticism I have of Dan Patrick through COVID is they allowed it to become political. They didn't do their job and lead and provide people with good information. Why do we wear masks? Why do we keep our distance? Why is it important to have a vaccine? What's the science behind the vaccines? They allowed it to become politicized. They allowed it to become a statement of defiance in some people. And we lost control of the situation. And that was an absolute disaster. And then finally, I think Lieutenant Governor can block this terrible thing that's happening where they're politicizing what's actually happened inside the classroom and legislating what's happening inside the classroom. And I think there's a racial underpinning to that I despise. I despise racism. I think we should trust our teachers to teach history. We should celebrate our great success as a great nation. We should learn from our mistakes, which are considerable. That is the essence of a great democracy. And so the lieutenant governor can keep politics out of our classroom. Don't poison our schools. Don't poison everything with partisan politics. Trust Texans. That's where this lieutenant governor is coming from. And if I say, where's the money going to come from for schools? I think it's important to mention that it's not going to come from higher property taxes on homeowners and small businesses, because we're being cheated. We're being cheated by the owners of large commercial industrial properties that aren't paying their share. The large corporate interests run the operation in Austin, and Dan Patrick is part of this. I'm not taking any money from any of the corporate PACs. None, zero. I have nothing against job creators. And you got good guys and you got bad guys, but the important thing is, Lieutenant Governor, I will work for Texans and nobody but Texans. And because I've been working on this for so long and have such a broad and deep network, I can raise all the money I need. I can raise millions and millions of dollars. I've raised $2 million already, many more to go, but I don't have to sell out to the corporate PACs, and I never will.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Is there anybody else that has a question?
I do.
I see a hand up.
Hi, Mike. I want to talk about one of your issues. You had talked about public education funding, and I'm an active PTA parent on the boards, and funding for our schools in Flower Mound is a challenge because of recapture. So you had talked about funding for schools. What is your plan to address funding and address recapture and the funding to the charter schools that don't have to follow the same guidelines?
Yeah, wonderful question. Wonderful question. I do not like the idea of charters competing against public schools for funding. That's not what they were meant to do.
Right.
And that's not right. And you hear people talk about the hollowing out of public schools. That I will fight against. There's no question about it. In terms of how do we put more money in schools and recapture? Recapture is really it's become very distorted. It is now a means of funding the state.
Right.
Capture is being used to fund the state. It's not being used to fund schools. And that's what I want to make sure everybody understands. I think I don't want to be hyperbolic and say that it's criminal, but it is criminal. It's terrible what they're doing. And there are places where your tax dollars are going to fund the state to do the state's job. The state has a revenue problem. The state has stopped collecting taxes from the large corporate interests like they used to. There are loopholes all over the place. They've reduced the margin tax dramatically. It's unacceptable. A lieutenant governor, and I'm a CPA, by the way, a lieutenant governor who knows where are the loopholes. What are they doing to our state? What are they doing to our schools and our property taxes? There's the red line. That's where the fight is, Elizabeth. That's where the fight is. Oh, no, I think I got my point across. I'll say one last thing. I'm Republicans' worst nightmare. I'm Republicans' worst nightmare. I'm a Democrat and I'm an auditor. I get lied to for a living. And I know where that money is and we're being cheated. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to go over my time and borrow 2 minutes, we might as well have a little fun with it, right?
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate it.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Take care. We'll see you soon.
I don't see you soon. And I don't see Jinny Sue on, but I do see we've been joined by Ed Ireson. Did I pronounce that correctly, Ed? You want to turn on your camera and okay? And if you want to turn on your camera
here, there we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
You are running for so you're running for agriculture commissioner. You're a businessman, a cattle rancher, and it appears you've been endorsed by the Dallas Morning News. I don't know if you heard before we started. I was giving each candidate 10 minutes. At the end of 5, you'll get a green card, and it'll just stay up here in case you miss it. At 8, you'll get a yellow, and at 10, you'll get a red. And you can use your 10 minutes however you want to. Most candidates will take 5 minutes just to tell about their platform, and then take 5 minutes for questions, but you can do whatever you want to.
Sounds great.
So, take it away. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'm Ed Ireson. I'm running for Commissioner of Agriculture. And as was mentioned, I am a businessman. I'm also a new father. I've got a 4-month-old who is either going down for a late nap or maybe going to sleep through the night. We'll see. It's always a question mark right now. And I'm a proud Texan. So my focus and why I'm running is on the next generation of Texans. So I was born in Houston, but my family has been running cattle for 130 years down in Brazos County, outside of College Station. What I like doing is talking about what the Department of Agriculture actually does, because it's got a lot of strange things that kind of get thrown in there. The largest portion of the budget is school meal programs. And we can all get behind the concept that we need our kids to have well-rounded, nutritious meals so that they can be prepared to do their schoolwork. I've yet to meet somebody on either side of the aisle who disagrees with me on that. But it's an important part. Next, the Ag Commissioner's job is to promote all of the great things we produce here in the state of Texas. I've done this before, obviously, as a business person. I know how to promote great products, but I've also specifically done that for small ranchers. I worked with ranchers to help sell directly to the consumer, which allows them to cut out the middleman and make a living wage. The third piece is rural infrastructure, which includes healthcare and internet. This is what I'm deeply passionate about. Like I said, our ranch is just south of College Station, and we barely have cell phone service. And the only way we have internet is we put up a very tall tower to point a little dish back towards the city. And we're fortunate enough to have that. But we're going to leave our rural communities behind if we don't start investing, not just expecting people to privately be able to do that. And I want to do that because my concern is, obviously 4-month-old, we're not quite there yet. But at some point, we need to have good internet on the ranch so that my kid can do his homework, take a test, eventually apply for college. And I don't want our families living in rural communities to be left behind just because they don't have internet access. In November, I think that voters are looking for somebody different. Agriculture is not red or blue. And so they want somebody who's going to come in and work to serve all Texans. And more importantly, do so with integrity, honesty, and transparency, all three of which are currently lacking in the current Ag Commissioner, to say the very, very least. And then that's about it. I'd love to open it up and talk more. A lot of people have questions about the Ag Commission because it's it may not feel personal or relevant to you, but I'm sure there's a component that is.
So does anybody have any, I'll open up first to the audience. Does anyone have any questions? And I always have a question.
Looks like Steph has her hand up.
So we'll just start with, I don't see, do you see someone with their hand up? Oh yes, Stephanie, why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
So who is the current Ag Commissioner?
His name is Sid Miller.
I'm not familiar. Oh,
Yep.
that's Sid. Oh, well,
Sid
I know
Miller.
his name. I didn't
So
think
his
he's
aide,
not doing the job. I got you.
not to begin with, not even in the slightest. His aide a couple of weeks ago was arrested and indicted for accepting a bribe. And I don't know about you, but I apply kind of mafia rules, which is that the aide is not doing it to pat his own pocket. He's taking a percentage and it's going up the chain there. That's speculation on my part, but
That's regarding the hemp license, the hemp growing licenses.
That's correct.
Right? Okay.
That is correct.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
I feel like if I'm saying his name too many times, something bad happens. So
He's been around a long time. It's really time for him to go.
yes.
I understand one of the jobs. Oh wait, I'm going to pause. Drew Murray, who is actually our chair of our party chair for the Mound Area Democrats. Drew, you have a question? You might still be on mute.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry. So I have a question, Ed. I don't know that much about the agricultural commissioner, what he does. I am concerned about climate change. I had a disagreement with a Republican because I was working the polling place. He says the fires in California are because they raked all the leaves together. So I was tempted to say to him on my next visit, this fire we just had out in Kinnendale 2 days ago that burned up 100 acres. Was that caused by them raking the leaves incorrectly? So I'm curious as to what your, whether as agricultural commissioner, you can be involved in the fight for, doing something about climate change in this state.
Well, let me talk personally first, which is that climate change directly affects our ranching operation. The freeze last year was the obvious answer, but just the changing weather patterns directly impacts how we feed our cattle. So about 7 years ago, we switched to something called rotational grazing, where the cows move from kind of one paddock to another, and it allows the earth to kind of regenerate and grow more grass, and just it's better for the earth. It's more efficient, right? Is that we don't have to go buy feed as frequently, and we don't have to bale as much hay on a given year because we're letting the earth regenerate and do what it's naturally meant to do. We did that because we are down the street from Texas A&M and their AgriLife extension program. And a professor came out and pitched us the idea and went, that sounds great. We'd love to try it, and invested a bunch of money in doing that. I think what needs to happen from a department standpoint is that we need to be going out and actually funding those things. It's not cheap to go build these paddocks and make sure you have a water source and do all these things, but it is incredibly efficient once you have it set up. And so we need to get things in place to get grants and economic incentives, all of these programs focused on small and medium-sized farmers. We don't need big ag to have, a little more money in their pocketbook to go do these things. It's the small ranchers that we need to get out there, small ranchers and farmers, who we need to really fund and make sure that they have that opportunity, because it does have an impact on climate change. It affects us on both sides, right? If we're destroying the land, we're causing, we're causing it, and then the effects of it impact our bottom line. So it's very personal to me, and fully agree. It's been raking leaves. Where did that even come from?
Yeah, Trump claimed that the Californians were not raking the leaves correctly, and that.
What do you do with that?
For the fires in California.
Well, at least he didn't say George Soros' ray gun. So.
Yeah. And he just parroted it, he completely parroted what Trump had said about those fires in California. It's just crazy. So thank you for your answer.
And
Does
Steph, you're right.
anyone else have a
The
question?
crop rotation is the same concept. I have to be more familiar with rotational grazing, but crop rotation is the same game. You've got to let the land regenerate and come back to a level of stasis.
Now, something I don't think everybody knows, but I seem to recall from the last round, is that the Agriculture Commission is also responsible for school lunches, or can you tell us a little bit about your plans on feeding children, and the connection to agriculture? I've lost the connection now, but I remember that it was a part of it.
Yep. So it's the largest portion of the Texas Department of Agriculture's budget is school meal programs. The way it works is that the federal government, through the USDA, sends that money down to the State Department of Agriculture, and then the State Department of Agriculture, within lots of federal oversight, has the ability to spend funds and manage the school meal program. Here's the problem I have with Sid Miller's approach. He's supposed to be, I refer to this role as the cheerleader for agriculture, for Texas agriculture specifically. The Houston region, which is not Houston ISD, but it's kind of the broader Houston metro, is currently being serviced for the school meal programs with a California-based company. Now, I don't have anything against California, but we make and grow a lot of food here in Texas, and I have no idea why we're outsourcing it outside of the state. We need to be thinking locally. It's not enough to just be thinking about where we're getting the food for on a state-by-state basis. We need to start looking at school gardens, making sure that the food is coming down the street and not, halfway across the world. And so it's important that we focus on those things. And like I said earlier, everyone agrees with me that we should be feeding our kids nutritious, well-rounded meals. And as long as you don't say healthy, Republicans agree with you. For some reason, if you say healthy, they think Michelle Obama, and somehow that's a problem. But the reality is that everyone agrees about nutritious meals, right? No one thinks that we should be serving cupcakes to kids. Actually, I had a parent, cupcakes is not even a good example. I had a parent send me their school meal program, school menu, and it had a honey bun for breakfast. And that was it. That was the only option. And you're going, that's not a good way to start your day. That's a terrible way to start your day. You're gonna have a sugar crash by 9. And so we've got to kind of institute better programs, better guardrails to make sure that we're actually doing a good job with that program.
Thank you. And I agree with you. It's really important. It does seem like, I don't know what it is. I don't even think it's just, I've seen things from parents that don't even want to pay for school lunches. They don't want kids to get, and it's like, well, if they're not a fed child, then they can't be a learning child.
Exactly.
It's hard to learn on an empty stomach. So thank you so much. This, by the way, everybody, Ed was invited at the last minute. I invited like about 5 candidates at the last minute, and Ed, I appreciate you taking time out to be here for us. You're free to stay on, or if you want to, you can drop as well.
Sounds good. Thank y'all. Have a good evening.
Thanks. You too. Okay, is Jinny Sue on? I haven't seen her, so I'm guessing she's not. Okay, I'm going to switch over now to the SD12 candidates, and we're going to start with Ferdi Mondo. Ferdi is an immigrant from Cameroon. He has a degree in Bible studies and a master's in Bible studies as well. I'm sure he'll correct me on that. And he's been a teacher, a tutor, a farmer, a realtor, and he is currently a manager at a large retail chain. Ferdi, I think you know the drill. You have 10 minutes. 5 minutes to, or you use it however you want to. Might want to take questions at some point though. Are you out there, Ferdi?
I'm here. Good evening, everybody,
Okay.
Good people, and thank you, Sandra, for having us out here. So I'm going to introduce myself, and then the second half, I'm going to talk about our platform for the campaign. I was born in Cameroon. I'm a native of Cameroon and a naturalized citizen. And I'm a husband to a very beautiful wife for about 27 years, very supportive. And I'm also a father of 4 incredible kids. I'm also the oldest of a lot of siblings. And with that, we grew up very poor. We ate from the same bowl, usually same plate, usually most of the time, and slept on the same bed, and 2 on this side and 2 on this side, because we could not afford all of that. I came to the United States in January of '90. When I landed in Texas, I had a beat up toothbrush and a change of clothes and $2.50, which is just all that my family could put together and it to send me over to the United States to study. So I landed at the airport, got picked up, came to the Criswell College with the sponsorship of an anonymous donor. Till this day, I'm still looking for that person. I can locate them. And in that sponsorship included my tuition. Okay, so with that came, I used that to study and get my undergraduate degree and a master's degree. And through that, I worked on campus making $4 an hour, which was the minimum wage back then, $4 an hour. And in my master's program, I got a raise, $2 more to $6 an hour. Ooh, that was big time. So $6 an hour. With that, I supported myself, and I graduated and became a teacher. So I taught high school in Oak Cliff. And I also was a part of a program called the University Outreach. I was the mentor. So I tutored high school students, and prepared them to transition into college. That was what I did. Did that successfully, became a realtor. I'm a realtor right now, and I work for a major Fortune 500 company. And I've been with them for 25 years. And 18 of those 25 years has been a general senior manager. And again, I tell you who they are, but I told them that I'm not going to drag them into my political career. So out of respect to them, I'm going to leave them out of this. Why is that important that I tell you all of that in my background? It's very important because I manage people with varying backgrounds successfully. I manage complexity. I manage ambiguity. I manage human resource issues. So that's why I think that if I am chosen, if I win, I would absolutely be a successful candidate to go against the Republicans. And on top of that, I am also a cattle, I own cattle and I own horses in Wise County. So when I go out there, I know that Wise County is as red can come. I talk to them. I walk with them. They know me, I know them, and that's why I'm running. So my platform, why am I running? The events of 2016 are the reason why I'm running. I told you I was an immigrant. So I came from a country where the current president, Cameroon, is still in office. He's been there for 40 years. 40 years. They come up with this quasi democracy where they go in there, you play with the votes like we are trying to do, and then he comes out the winner. So our democracy as a republic is being challenged in 2016 when the former president said there's not going to be a peaceful transfer of power. When we have alternate delegates, who can decide the election, when they believe that the vice president of the United States can overthrow an election, that is a problem. And that's what I'm running to kind of combat. Number two, voting rights. If I'm elected, if I'm chosen, the voting rights are under attack. join the team to make sure that voting access is easy voting access. We'll make sure that, I'll try to make sure that voting becomes a holiday for everybody. So we can go in and vote. Mailing ballots, we make voting easy and accessible. Education. Education is dear and near to my heart as a former educator. You know, Texas is the 9th largest state. It has the 9th largest GDP. So if Texas was a country, it'll be the ninth largest economy. But guess where they rank in education? When it comes to higher ed, we rank number 31. When it comes to pre-K through 12, we rank number 35. So there is a disparity there. So education is really close to my heart, and we're going to run to fix that. Hardworking Americans or hardworking Texans, being the number 9th largest GDP in the world, but Texas has 16% of Texans are under the poverty rate. 16% poverty rate, but they have a very large GDP. So there is another disparity right there. There is another disparity. So we're going to work to make sure that hardworking Americans get what they deserve. The minimum wage of Texas is $7.25 an hour. Man, come on, that is unbelievable. So we need to raise the minimum wage, slowly raise it to about $13 an hour to give small businesses time to adjust.
Thank you, Ferdi. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Oh, well, actually, I meant use the thing, but that's fine, Bradley. Go ahead and ask your question. I meant to use the little like character at the bottom.
Okay, so I'm sorry about all of that. So he's not here, so I'm gonna wait for another question then.
Yeah. And I would say, for the record, you know, I agree with you. People pay the minimum wage, and yet it's really not that you can't afford to live in Flower Mound on the minimum wage. So anybody else have a question that they'd like to ask? Well, we've gone over your amount anyway, Ferdi.
So can I just add something real quick? There is word.
You may add something.
There is absolutely word on the street, and I hear it every day, that the Republican side they do not want to see me. They don't want me there. And the more they do that, we need to. I'm going to tell my voters to make sure that we give them what they don't want. So that's just a preview, you know. So I just need to put that out there, and I need to get used to that quite often.
One of the things, I'm just gonna give a little fact to Ferdi here. One of the things that I found in facts right now is that if inflation were accounted for, that the minimum wage actually right now for a livable minimum wage would actually be $21 per hour. That's how bad we're off.
Thank you very much. And I noted that down for my next speaking point. I really appreciate that, Ms.
Sure.
Moran. I appreciate that.
That just shows you how far behind we are. I mean, it's crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ferdi, and thanks for coming. And I apologize for that disruption. And thank you, Beth, for removing him.
It's okay.
Well, but you know what? Now you're ready for the next time that happens, right? All right. Next, I want to introduce Francine Lee. She is not new to politics. She's been an activist. She has been a precinct chair, an election judge. She represented the AAPI community on the STEC, and very, very much involved in Get Out the Vote efforts. Francine, are you there?
I am. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. So just real quick, in case you didn't hear before, you have like about 10 minutes. We've got lots of time, so don't worry about it. But green at 5 minutes, at 8 minutes is yellow, and at 10 minutes is red. You can talk or you can take questions, however you want to mix it up.
Just a short introduction. Thank you. What you said is correct. I am very active in our community, the Democratic community. I am a precinct chair. Well, I had to step down as a precinct chair, was the precinct chair. Have been an election judge, and I do serve on the SDEC representing the AAPI community. We do work on getting out the vote. And when 2020, we did work on getting out the count. So very, very active in the community. I am also a chair of the National Asian American PAC. We are, what the mission for the PAC does is on top of just looking out for presidential candidate. We during the off season, we monitor just monitor the activities, making sure that the policy initiative, legislative activities, and conduct of the elected officials are not, negatively impacting our community. But yeah, if you guys, like to ask me a question, I'm here. I've been in the legislature before. I was a legislative staff from 95 to 2001. So I am familiar with it. Currently, I am a paralegal. I am working for a judge in the 134th District Court as a court coordinator. So, I come into contact with a lot of people, a lot of attorney, a lot of pro se litigants. So, yeah. Any question you like? I can go into my background, but I'm not sure that's what you guys are here to listen to.
So anybody have any questions that they would like to bring forth? I'll kick off the questions. So name like the top 3 things you hope to accomplish as a senator for Texas.
Well, definitely got to make sure that our public school are adequately funded. When I was a legislative aide back in between 95 and 2001, every session, it feels like we're always having to battle for public fund, public education, and apparently still there's no difference. So definitely I'm going to continue that work when I'm back in the legislative, once I'm elected as senator, that's what I'm going to do as well. Continue to fight. Our public school is very important. If you like, I can share a little bit with you. I'm a refugee. I came here in '79. I was about 9. That was my first experience in school. I had no education. I didn't read, write, nor speak English. I attended kindergarten as a 9-year-old. Once I learned my ABC, I got skipped to the 4th grade. So growing up, the most formative year are from kindergarten till about, your primary school. That's where you learn your ABC, you learn your phonetics, you learn how to read, you learn how to write. So, I learned my ABC, I learned that, but then I didn't get to learn the most important part, was the phonetics, learning how to enunciate, learning how to write, and learning how to read. So sometimes my reading is slow. I read, but it's slow. But yeah, that's because we were, there was no schooling. So my parent, that was the most important part, for me to go to school, sit there, make sure I listen and learn. And because they don't speak English themselves, it was on me to ensure that I sit and listen and pay attention to my teacher, because they can't help me with homework. So education is dear to my heart. It is. And it kills me every time I see someone that, they just like cutting funding. I'm like, why? We got funding from the federal education program for that purpose, but yet you're using it for some other purpose beside education. Okay, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry. And of course,
so education is one thing you're passionate about.
and broadband too, because during this pandemic, of course, we live in the city, so we don't have that problem. You know, our kids able to hop on and do their studying, not a problem. But you see, other school district don't have that luxury. So, and I if I'm not mistaken, they're funding for broadband, and again, they're not using for that purpose. And that's not very responsible of the elected official. And, you know, it's our fault too, because we keep electing them, knowing that they're not doing it.
Yeah. Okay, so education and broadband, and then do you have a third one that you want to accomplish?
Healthcare, it's very important.
Yes, healthcare is very important.
Healthcare is very important, especially now that our teachers are aging. You know, I mean, instead of making sure that they are you know, their pension is fully funded, that they got great, you know, when they get healthcare, it's affordable. It's not, and I just don't understand. You know, our teacher has spent their lifetime educating us, and what we can do is to protect them, making sure that they're comfortable, but instead they're like struggling, and it's just heartening. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. We're all very concerned about healthcare here too, especially the fact that I think we're one of those states that did not expand Medicare.
Medicaid.
So
Medicaid.
Medicaid.
Yeah.
Thank you. Medicaid, Medicare. I'm never sure. I know you're right. It's Medicaid. I got to remember, Medicare is for when I'm over 65 and I just need care. That's how I try to keep it sorted. All right. Anybody else have a question for Francine? So I'll give you an opportunity to talk about the minimum wage.
All right. My first job was, I was 14, 15. I was I'm not sure you guys like dim sum, the brunch Chinese lunch where you go and you pick stuff off the cart. Well, I was one of the dim sum cart pusher. So, you know, you're, as a waitress, y'all know, you make like $1.25 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And you put up with and you have to hope for tips.
And it's hard work, and you have to put up with a lot. But
yes.
It is. I mean, minimum wage. It's hard because some employer, you know, small mom and pop shop, it's hard for them to pay their worker above the minimum wage because they themselves are just trying to stay afloat. Some big corporation, of course, you know, they just abuse us, abuse our worker. But I just feel like definitely we just got to have a better, it's the employer, they gotta, I don't know. I just feel like employer need to pay a living wage to their employee. You know, I've been with the same employer for the past 30 years, and he was a state legislature. He went back to being an attorney. Now he's a judge. And their family, I've learned a lot from them. You know, they're always there, battling, fighting for the less fortunate. They're not rich. They, you know, but they know what's important. You know, they're union family, and for me, learning from them that we got to protect our worker. It's just the way it is. It's our future. I mean, our workforce is very important. Even, you know, from the professional who makes, hi, the professional who makes, you know, hundreds of $1,000s a year to the worker who, you know, makes minimum wage, but they are an integral part of our economy, and every one of them is a cog in this systematic machine. And if one fails, the whole system fails.
Yeah. Well, guess what? We got a question from Stephanie.
Hi.
Stephanie?
Hi, Francine.
wanna ask
Thank
a
you so
question?
much for being here. And thank you, Ferdi, too, for being here. So when it comes to y'all's races against, you know, for the seat with Tam Parker, right? That's who you're, okay.
Yes, whoever comes out of the primary will be
And
facing Mr. Parker. And I want to say, I'm not a career politician. I do not, you know, I mean, I think he's been at this for what, 14 years? I'm not a
He's
career
from
politician.
Pennsylvania, but that's okay. So Tan Parker, to clarify for the audience, Tan Parker is running for Jane Nelson's seat, right? And that is also what you, Francine, and Ferdi are running for as well?
Well, actually, to clarify, Senate District 12 is newly configured. It's not the old Jane Nelson seat. This is newly configured. This is newly configured. It's an open seat. After redistricting, it's not Jane Nelson's seat. Yes, it's Senate District 12, but Senate District 12 covers Wise County, Denton County, Tarrant County, and Dallas County. Senate District 12 was never in Dallas County, I don't believe.
No, you're right. You're right. No, it never was. So you're right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I know you guys have a time limit and you are very busy, but I feel like this would be a good time to really understand what this race is due to redistricting, due to Jane Nelson retiring. Tan Parker stepped up to run for her Senate district seat, but that's, you know, because he, in Flower Mound, he has his, his office is literally walking distance from me right now. So it's a little disgusting when I have to, Tan Parker's office is right here every day, every day.
So this is an open seat, and as you all know, I've been very active. I am on the SDEC, and I just feel like our voters, our Democratic voter, need an option, need a choice. You know, if we don't have a viable candidate up against the other side, we're stuck again. I'm putting myself out there. I'm not a candidate. I'm telling you, I'm not a politician. I do stuff in the background. You know, I gather information, get stuff together, put it all together, and then hand it off. Say, here, go. I never thought that I'm the face now. I'm the face now. I'm like, okay, who do I hand it to? Oh, me.
Francine, I appreciate that so much. I watched that. I wasn't able to attend in live session with you and Ferdi and that other guy at the Carrollton, Coppell, right? Yeah, I watched it later on. I thought you all did great, and you know, there's a lot of improvement that can be here. So I just want to encourage you guys and thank you all of you for taking that step and making that step, because not everybody's a politician. And honestly, I'm tired of the politicians.
Thank you for saying that. And let me just, if you don't mind, Ms. Sandra, can I have a second, please? So I'm going to echo what Francine said, because she and I, we agree that win or lose, we're going to be there to support each other. We're really doing this for the party. You see what I told a good friend of mine this evening that whatever happens after the primary, I've learned quite a bit, and I'm going to go in there to make sure that we support I give whatever I have to make sure that the party has a place in Texas. Texas is blue. We got to get involved, and I will do my great part. And Francine comes ahead. She has my 100% support, and I hope that if I come ahead, I'm going to get her support as well.
Definitely. Definitely. Again, we're doing this because we need to provide our voter. District 12 is new, brand new. We need to provide the voter in District 12 an option. Not just the usual, but this is an option. Hopefully, you know, there's a lot of diverse voices, interests, ideas in Senate District 12. A lot. I think they drew it that way, but it's also very red. But you know what? We're not gonna give up. We're here. We're here for you. We just need to need your support.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're expecting Rochelle Garza to join us. I don't think Jinny Sue ever joined. Jinny, are you out there by chance? Which is surprising because she confirmed today she was going to be here. And Rochelle was running a little bit late. Rochelle, are you there by chance? Okay, so I do have a couple of announcements. And if she's not here by 10 after, we'll wrap up. But if you would like to hear from Rochelle, who is also running for Attorney General, I believe that's what she's running for. I believe this. Okay, and but she should be interesting to hear from. I just wanted to mention that next month's meeting for the Mound Area Democrats, we will be focusing on school board. That will be a in-person meeting and online. And we will have a couple of the candidates running for school board there, and as well as Tracy Fisher, who is running for State Board of Education. So hopefully another, a good time to get to know some more candidates in these local elections and in the State Board of Ed as well. I hope that you guys have gotten a lot out of this and will be able to, and feel a little bit more informed. Drew, do you have anything you would like to add or any announcements you would like to make?
Well, I just want to thank all the candidates for coming and also anyone who participated. And we are in a fight. We can't give up. I do know that I lived in Florida for quite a few years, and I will tell you, candidates, that one of the governors of Florida had no money, no, big donor people, and he walked around the state of Florida and got, $5 here, $1 here, and he really worked his campaign and he won. So I don't think just because we are the underdogs that we should give up. In fact, when you're the underdog, you just fight that much harder. And thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for stepping up. It's exciting to have two candidates running for SB 12. I didn't realize it till a few weeks ago. And once again, Ferdi and Francine, I just asked them a week or two ago to join us, and they cleared their calendars to be here. And we really, really, really appreciate that from both of you. And I feel like whichever one of you gets the nomination is going to be a really good candidate. So we can sit and chat while we wait to see if Rochelle joins us.
Yeah, I see she's running for Attorney General.
Okay, yeah, I got that right. I said Attorney General, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. She has a law degree. She's got a master's in public health, and she's been an attorney with the ACLU.
Wow.
Yeah, she's the ACLU and the Annie's List candidate for Attorney General. And I don't know if she's going to join, so she can, introduce herself if she does. But one of her really big accomplishments was protecting the rights of a teenager immigrant in the immigration facilities at the border who was pregnant and seeking abortion care. and she
Oh,
ended
she's
up
that
fighting.
lawyer.
What? Is she here?
No, I said that she was that attorney. I remember when that happened. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm on my phone, so I don't have a huge like visual of what's going on. But so she fought against Brett Kavanaugh at the time. I believe prior to his Supreme Court justice appointment, and Paxton got in on that, and of course, because he likes to stick his nose into everybody in the US's business, while also saying that nobody should be, against, or no one should manage Texas except for Texans. So that's one of her biggest cases that she won. So she's really strong on abortion rights, and she's from, I think, the South Rio Grande Valley.
Mhm.
So she's got a lot of that when it comes to women's rights.
I was about to rename myself. This is Rochelle Garza.
Yeah, so you don't have to say too much because Stephanie Turner has just told us your whole biography. I'm Sandra Weinstein, the Flower Mound Area Dems. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sorry for the trouble that you had. We had a heckler earlier, so our Sergeant of Arms is taking care. We've been giving candidates 10 minutes each. We're obviously at the end of the meeting, but what I do is at 5 minutes, I let you know, 5, 8, and 10, and you don't have to stop right at 10. You can finish answering a question or whatever, and you can do whatever you like with your time. You can talk the whole time, or you can just talk like for 5 minutes and take questions, however you want to do it. So we've already introduced you. We heard the wonderful story about you and the woman at the immigrant at the border that needed an abortion. And so really fascinating. So go ahead. I'm starting your timer.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and just talk for maybe 5 minutes max, and then I'll take a few questions. I do have a hard stop at 8:15. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you all. And it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Rochelle Garza. I'm on the ballot as Rochelle Mercedes Garza, my great-grandmother's middle name. I am originally from the Rio Grande Valley, and I'm running for Texas Attorney General to fight for Texas families. I'm a 5th-generation Texan. I'm an expecting mom, and most of my work has really been inspired by my family's story and where I come from. So I always like to start off by sharing a little bit more about my family, because it really indicates the values that I've lived through my legal career. My parents are both from the Rio Grande Valley. My dad grew up as a farmer, so he was one of 13 kids. And then he became a public school teacher, and that's how he met my mom, who was also a public school teacher. And later on, he went to law school and then became a judge in South Texas and served the Rio Grande Valley for 20 years. My parents were very hard workers. They made it very clear that not everyone has the same opportunities, and that we really needed to treat every single person with dignity and respect. And those are the values that I lived, and I saw them live at home. I grew up with a sibling with disabilities. So my brother, Robbie, experienced a traumatic brain injury during childbirth, and he required a lot of support and a lot of care and advocacy. And I know that that's not something that I was alone in, or our family was alone in. I know a lot of people struggle with healthcare and access to healthcare across the state of Texas. But I learned from that experience that our family was only as strong as each of us. And that's how I look at our communities, and that's how I look at Texas, is that we need to ensure that we are protecting every single person in order for us to thrive and to succeed as a community, as a state, and as a country. And so that's why I focused my legal career on fighting for people that have been overlooked and left behind by our legal system. So I have extensive experience in practicing family law, immigration, criminal defense, and constitutional law. I know what it's like to fight for people in court and everyday Texans in court. And I also know what it's like to build a case that has a really big impact and that has the ability to reinforce reproductive rights across the country. I'm very proud of the work that I did for that young woman who was in immigration detention that needed access to abortion care, because she was obviously someone that the Trump administration, that Brett Kavanaugh, who is now sitting on the Supreme Court, and that Ken Paxton, who is still our indicted attorney general, did not think mattered. And we fought for her. We ensured that she got the care that she needed. And more than that, the Garza notice was the result of that case. So every single teen that is in immigration custody is required to be notified that they have a constitutional right to access abortion care. And this matters more than ever now, because we are seeing an attack on women's reproductive rights. And, with the 6-week abortion ban and with Roe at risk this summer, we really need to make sure that we have a champion in this office that is going to fight for choice. And it matters because if we don't fight for choice, we put all of the other civil rights that we've enjoyed at risk. It's a domino effect. And I try to stress that to folks because they're like, well, it's choice. No, this actually impacts marriage equality. It impacts free speech. It impacts gun rights, if that's something that matters to you. So we need to be protective of all civil rights, because otherwise there's a domino effect. And I'm running for this position to ensure that we are respecting our civil rights, that we actually have a fully functioning civil rights division. And I envision having a division that addresses voter rights and ensuring that people have access to the ballot box, that we have a reproductive justice unit in terms of ensuring access to reproductive health care, that we have an LGBTQ rights section, and that we also have a disability rights section. So making sure that we give everyone a fair playing field, a fair shot through this office. I also want to ensure that we focus in on healthcare and that we can get through this pandemic. It's been 2 years. We are very close, I think, to the end, but we also need to make sure that communities are able to do the things that they need to do to keep their citizens safe. I also want to make sure that we actually uplift consumer protections in the state of Texas, that we fight for families to have the things that they need. There's a lot can be done through the Attorney General's office in terms of ensuring that we don't have more unincorporated cities develop across the state of Texas, that people have access to clean drinking water and infrastructure, basic infrastructure. So I want to ensure that we use this office for good, that we uplift every single Texas family. And I'll leave it at that. And if folks want to ask me questions, please feel free to. Thank you.
So does anyone have any questions? Well, I have a quick question. I understand your passion for abortion rights. What would you say are the top 3 things you want to accomplish as Attorney General?
So top 3 is protecting healthcare, civil rights, and ensuring consumer protection. So accountability for what happened with the power grid, and using the office to ensure that we hold bad actors accountable whenever we've got violations of workers' rights, et cetera.
Okay. And then, what about do you maybe, and I'm not sure, maybe your office doesn't involve in this, but I would think so, the voting rights, and maybe rolling back some of the restrictive voting laws have gone into effect.
Yeah, the Attorney General's office is there to investigate and litigate. I mean, you're the attorney for the people of Texas.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would use the office to ensure that we have a greater voter protections.
I have a question.
Okay.
If you do get
Okay.
elected, if you get elected, what can you accomplish? Not what do you want to accomplish, but as we go into this situation, what do you think you can accomplish?
Well, the Attorney General is an independent executive position, so I can accomplish essentially whatever I set my mind to. There's independence in the position, so it's a matter of really getting someone in there with a vision that is going to use the office for good, and using the office, the resources that the office has to actually improve people's lives is like absolutely 100% doable. So, you know, there aren't roadblocks the way that I think in other positions, but because it's an independent executive position.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I know you have more time, but I know you had a hard stop at 8:15. It's 8:15.
Yeah. Well, I just
time for another question, or you have to go?
I'm gonna have to hop off, but I just wanted to wrap up and say thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate the questions and the time that you've given me. Okay.
Well, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to spend time with us. I know it was packed, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You take care.
And I'm excited. You too. And I'm excited to say that Jinny Sue is here. We've been talking about you all night, Jinny.
Oh, thank you. I just left an event here in Dallas, so I just ran to the car, and here I am in the back of the minivan, like usual.
Okay, no worries. You'll have about 10 minutes, and at 5 I throw this up. At 8 I throw yellow, and then red at 10. You don't have to stop right on the dot, but we're running out of probably space for our recording. And you can do whatever you want to at the time.
Okay.
Spend some time talking about your platform, and then take some questions, whatever you want.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I'll go ahead and start if that's all right. My name is Jinny Sue.
Yeah.
I am running for Texas Land Commissioner. If there's one thing I hope that you'll remember after this Zoom is that I'm a fighter and an activist, and I'm here to fight for you, for Texas, to do what's right for Texans. So I want to start out by saying that I am a licensed attorney, former teacher, former PTA leader, and a working mom to 2 public school kids aged 5 and 9. I'm also the founder and leader of Immunize Texas. That's what I've been doing for the last 6 years, is being at the Texas State Capitol, working with lawmakers, advocating for better public health care policy for all Texans around the realm of vaccines. And if anyone in this Zoom or that's watching later has ever dealt with an anti-vaxxer, maybe you have someone in your family or a friend that is an anti-vaxxer, you will know that if I'm that person that's going up against them, I'm not someone that's afraid of a fight, and I don't give up when things are hard. I also want to talk a little bit about what does the land commissioner do? What are the responsibilities under the general land office? Well, there's a number of things that are handled by the GLO, and they're not always really related to each other. So I'm going to just list them out and then talk about why I'm the best candidate in this race. So first of all, big thing that all the statewides are really talking about, the climate crisis. So we have a chance now in Texas to get in front of climate change, to make sure that we're ready. But we need leaders in place that will have that vision, the strength, and the backbone to take action and put people first. So for me, I just want to share a little bit about why it's so important to me. I have a personal reason why this is such an important thing for me. I'm the child of working class Korean immigrants. I grew up in a small rural town of about 10,000 people, and I struggled in the first parts of my life. I grew up without health insurance. My parents came to this country with almost nothing. They came to build a better life for themselves and their families. So I grew up without health insurance in that small town. You can probably imagine I was not treated as an included member of the community. But most importantly, what's relevant to the land commissioner race is that I watched my parents lose their plant nursery business because of droughts. And it's for that reason that I know that increasing unreliability of weather, extreme weather events, increased frequency of these extreme events, they hurt people on the ground. People suffer. This is not just something we talk about in textbooks or in scientific studies. This affects people's livelihoods. It affects their businesses. It affects their ability to put food on the table and take care of their families. And that's why it's so important as a state that we get in front of it. Now, some other things that are handled by the GLO, we have federal disaster relief fund distribution, and we're talking about long-term relief funds. So when you have a natural disaster, if you need to rebuild your home, for instance, you're going to need that money, and it's going to come from the GLO. Now, what we're seeing right now with the current administration is a land commissioner that doesn't care about people. He's out of touch. For those that aren't familiar, it's George P. Bush, who is now running for Attorney General. But because of his background, because of who he is, he does not put people first. And we are seeing the effects of that. So in Houston, for instance, there are people who have not received a single dollar from the GLO after Hurricane Harvey. And it's been a number of years, and it's unacceptable that they have been left out without any relief. Now, under my watch, that's not going to happen, because I'm going to make sure to prioritize people over other projects, over other community centers. You know, we're talking about real people who need that money to rebuild. Other things that are handled by the General Land Office, we have the Coastal Bend area and the Coastal Management Plan. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done there to make sure that, again, we're talking about weather. Are we going to be able to withstand the next big hurricane, the next storm surge? Are our oil and gas facilities going to be at risk? These are the kinds of questions that the next land commissioner needs to tackle. And then finally, the Alamo. That is managed by the GLO. As a woman of color, I am very dedicated to making sure that people of color are not erased from our history. There is a path here where we can be proud of the Alamo as Texans. It is an important part of our history. However, we need to make sure that history is represented accurately and that the true meaning of that history is presented to the public. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about why I'm the best candidate. I have the science background. I am the person that can communicate difficult scientific concepts to the public very well and effectively. I do that all the time with Immunize Texas, but I'm also an attorney, and I have the experience of negotiating contracts, which is what we're going to need when we're dealing with oil and gas. I'm going to tell you something right now. Oil and gas, they need us. They need those state lands. It's not the other way around. So we have the bargaining power to make sure that we include clauses and provisions, like making sure that they cap emissions, that they do carbon capture. You know, there's a lot of things on the table that they need to do, and they need a land commissioner to include that in those contracts. Now, the kind of law that I practice, it is relevant. It's not, I was not a personal injury lawyer or anything like that. I was a patent litigator. So I'm talking about exactly what we need for this office, that marriage of science with business interests coming together in a way that's productive. Now, on top of including those clauses and provisions in those contracts, we need someone that's going to hold them accountable. We see already that there are these things agreed to by the General Land Office and oil and gas, but no one actually follows up, and they just get a pass when they don't meet their obligations. Again, that's not going to happen under my administration. So it's for those reasons that I know that I'm the best person for this job, but I also want to talk about the importance of my campaign in terms of diversity. We need to see more representation in our elected officials. It's incredibly important for the future that our elected officials look like us, they can relate to us, they will fight for us. Now, 95% of our growth in Texas from the past 10 years has come from people of color. Asian Americans are the fastest growing demographic. I'm the first Asian American to run for a statewide executive office. Why is that? It's because we don't encourage enough people to run for office. So I am very proud to have endorsements from a wide range of groups that see in me the leader that they need for the future. I have endorsements from Texas AFL-CIO, Texas AFT, Annie's List. And if you go to my website, you can see the broad range of organizations that have all supported me. So it's for that reason that I am very proud to be a symbol of what could be for Texas, that I'm a symbol of the future and what we need to see happen with our elected officials and leadership in this state. So I hope that I've earned your support tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. I know it's been a long night for y'all, so I'm not going to talk much longer. I would instead love to use the rest of my 10 minutes to answer any questions. So thank you so much for your attention and time tonight.
I might add that if you're elected, you'll be the first woman land commissioner in Texas.
That's right. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Yes, I'm excited about that idea as well.
All right, so who has questions? Well, you know, Drew, I'm going to encourage you to ask your questions about that you had about the raking of the leaves.
Oh, yeah. Jinny, I was working the polls this last week and had a disagreement with a Republican there because said we've got to address climate change. I'm a biologist. We have to address climate change. And he said, well, and I said, what about those fires in California? He said, well, they were raking the leaves incorrectly. They were piling the leaves all together.
Sure.
So we just had a fire. I don't know if you heard about this because you're busy out in Kennedale, which is Wise County. This week, 100 acres burned up. And I'm tempted, but I'm not going to do it, to say to this Republican, do you think they weren't raking the leaves up right out there in Kennedale? Because, people here don't, they think, oh, that stuff's happening in California. It's happening in Florida with the hurricanes. And they don't think it's going to happen here. So as land commissioner, do you think you can drive the conversation to get some changes done to move the state towards working more on climate change?
So my approach is really just to treat it as a fact, because it is a fact. It's happening in real time. And I find that when you really look at a lot of the Republican talking points, even in this race on the other side, I have been in forums where I've shared the stage with them. They know it's happening. They might use different words. They might say something like, well, we know that the weather is getting stranger or something like that. It's all the same thing. They just don't want to give it the same name that we do, but they know it's real. And I also look at, for instance, the private sector. I get questioned a lot, what am I going to do about addressing these issues with oil and gas? Well, here's the thing. Oil and gas, they know that climate change is real. And I see the signs out there. For instance, when I go to West Texas, the parking structures for all of their facilities have solar panels installed on them. If they had such faith in fossil fuels, why are they putting solar panels on their parking structures? Now, what's the driving force behind oil and gas? It's money, it's profits, it's revenue. Well, they want to make sure that they are part of the future because they want to make sure that their profits keep coming in. So they are actively involved in researching renewable energy, how they can be involved. They just need a leader like myself to bring it all together so they can be part of the solution and we can get in front of climate change as a state.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're out of time, but I'm going to let Stephanie ask her question, but make it brief. Stephanie, you had a question? You're on mute. Maybe she just doesn't, I don't know what happened.
No, I'm on mute.
But I wanted to.
Sorry. Hey, Sandra, I'm here. Sorry. No, it's the cold weather. It doesn't like my mute. So Jinny, I would really like to understand what your role will be. And if you are elected, which I hope you will be, how will that manage in a very strong GOP leadership space?
So
if you're the only Democrat elected, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So again, I have that experience of working with people from all different perspectives. I'll be honest, when we do things with Immunize Texas, for pro-vaccine bills, you cannot get them passed without Republican sponsorship. So I've had to work with Republican lawmakers in the past to achieve my goals of getting better public health care policy for Texas. I see the same issue here. I think if we talk about, what's important to the people at the table, which is going to be things like money and making sure that their businesses continue to thrive, they will be willing to negotiate. And in terms of the leadership, well, I'm somebody that, yes, I'm a true progressive and I represent all our true democratic values, but I'm also someone that's pragmatic. And I am very good at working with people and finding commonality so that we can get to the solutions that need to be reached. So, I think that when you talk with Republicans outside of the media, outside of the cameras, you will find that they are willing to work with you. You might have to do it in a way that isn't so publicly, showing that they might be actually secretly progressive, but they are willing to work with you when it comes to things like protecting our state's natural resources, making sure that our state's economy is protected and that we continue to have a healthy economy so that people can continue to work and feed their families and put food on the table. So, I think a lot of this, it's about, this is politics. This is about an elected official working their job in a way that moves the state forward. I'm the person to do that job because I have the experience. And I think that there is enough room there for us to actually, achieve the goals that we set in front of us.
For public service.
Yes, absolutely. To serve Texas.
And even if it's across the aisle.
Yes. I mean, there's no way for me to get away from working with oil and gas and working with Republican lawmakers in the Texas legislature. However, I can assure you that I will maintain the vision of what we need to do to get in front of climate change to achieve the goals that I outlined tonight.
Love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Drew, do you have a very, very quick staff question? Because we are way out of time.
Yeah, I just have two quick questions, Jenny. One of them, the other thing I'm concerned about besides the fires, and actually that kind of ties in, we're in a drought. And I am worried, we have, I don't know how many thousands of people moving into DFW every day or something. I'm concerned about water. And also I think one of the things you might want to address in your speeches with people are, and I know this is a weird topic, but there is a problem in the rural areas of Texas and even in Dallas with wild boars.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
They are a problem in the state. And so those are two subjects that maybe would come under your, your area of work if you got elected.
So I'd have to look more into the wild boar situation. I'm not sure that they're all on state lands. However, with the water, I have talked extensively on the campaign trail about the water issues that we face as a state. And I will just say quickly, one of the things that I take very seriously is making sure that we listen to science and experts, because a lot of the proposed solutions out there for our climate crisis issues, they involve a lot of water. So, we need to be careful. We need to make sure that we do the investigating, that we do the studies to make sure that we don't go down a path where we spend billions of dollars on a proposed solution that actually ends up hurting us in other ways, like depleting our already scarce water resources in the state. So that's something, again, I think that we need to make sure we have someone in place that understands ecosystems, that understands the balance that we need to achieve, and will do the work to make sure we do these things responsibly.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for attending, and thank you, Jinny, for taking time out and for joining us. And as I mentioned, next month we'll be focusing on school board. Thanks so much, and good luck in the primaries to you, Francine, and Ferdi, who I think are still on.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.